Here is the rewritten and fully paraphrased version of your script, preserving the same emotional message, tone, and narrative while making it sound original and natural. There is a reason you are here at this exact moment. Out of all the videos, all the distractions, and all the paths your attention could have followed, something led you here. Maybe you cannot explain it logically. Maybe it was only a feeling, a quiet nudge, a sudden impulse to stop scrolling and listen. But deep down, part of you knew there was something in this message meant for you. Life has a way of speaking through moments that seem ordinary on the surface, yet feel strangely significant inside. Sometimes the mind cannot explain what the heart already understands. Sometimes your deeper self recognizes an answer before you can even put a question into words. That feeling that brought you here is not something to ignore, because what you are about to hear may not feel like new information. It may feel more like confirmation, a validation of something you have already sensed but have been hesitant to trust. There is someone who has remained in your thoughts, someone whose presence still appears unexpectedly, someone you may have tried to release, tried to move beyond, yet somehow they continue to occupy a space within you. Their memory arrives without warning. Their name enters your mind during random moments. Their energy seems to linger even when you are focused on other things. And despite your efforts to move forward, some part of you has never completely disconnected from them. What if there is a reason for that? What if the connection never truly disappeared? Because right now, something is shifting. A movement has already begun beneath the surface of your visible reality. It may not be obvious yet. There may not be a text message, a phone call, or any concrete proof standing in front of you. But that does not mean nothing is happening. Some things begin long before they become visible. Some changes start quietly, in places beyond your awareness, before eventually finding their way into the physical world. And perhaps that is why you found this message today. Perhaps you are being prepared for what is unfolding. There is a sign that has already appeared in your life, a signal you may have dismissed as coincidence, a feeling you may have brushed aside as imagination. Yet, it continues to return because it is trying to get your attention. Many years ago, Carl Jung explored ideas that challenged the limits of ordinary thinking. He believed that not every event in life could be explained through simple cause and effect. He observed that certain moments seemed connected through meaning rather than logic. He called these experiences synchronicities, meaningful events that appear connected in ways the rational mind struggles to explain. Jung understood that some relationships leave a lasting imprint on the soul. Not every person enters your life for a brief lesson and then disappears forever. Some connections change you at such a deep level that their influence continues long after physical distance has separated you. And when a connection of that magnitude begins moving back into alignment, signs often emerge before the reunion itself. The universe has a way of communicating, not through loud announcements, but through subtle signals, dreams that feel unusually vivid, memories that arrive out of nowhere, repeated symbols, unexpected reminders, moments that seem insignificant until you notice how often they appear. These signs are not meant to confuse you. They are not meant to trap you in false hope. Their purpose is preparation. They exist to help you recognize that something important is taking shape. By the time you finish listening, you may begin to understand why certain experiences have been showing up in your life recently. You may finally understand why this person continues to occupy a place in your thoughts. And perhaps most importantly, you may realize that you are not alone in what you have been feeling. Because for a long time, you have carried something difficult to explain. A quiet certainty, a feeling that lives somewhere between intuition and knowing. It appears during silent moments. It surfaces when the world around you becomes still. It whispers to you when there are no distractions left to drown it out. Yet you rarely talk about it. How could you? If you tried explaining it to other people, it might sound like wishful thinking, it might sound like attachment, it might sound like an inability to let go. So instead, you kept it to yourself. You tucked it away in the private corners of your heart, where it could exist without criticism or judgment. But silence does not make something untrue, and ignoring a feeling does not always make it disappear. You have tried to move forward. You have made genuine efforts to heal. You have focused on your growth, your goals, your future. Perhaps you stopped checking on them. Perhaps you avoided their social media. Perhaps you created distance wherever possible. And maybe you succeeded. For days, for weeks, maybe even longer. Yet despite everything, they never completely left your mind. Not because you failed, not because you are stuck, but because some experiences leave a deeper mark than others. You could be busy with work, surrounded by people, fully engaged in your own life, and suddenly their memory would return. A particular moment, a familiar expression, the sound of their voice, a feeling attached to them that seems untouched by time, and every time it happened, you questioned yourself. You wondered whether you should be further along by now. You wondered whether healing was supposed to look different. You wondered whether these thoughts meant you were holding yourself back. But what if they meant something else? What if they were not signs of weakness? What if they were reminders that certain bonds do not follow ordinary timelines? Because despite everything, there has been a part of you that continued waiting. Not desperately, not obsessively, not in a way that prevented you from living your life, but quietly, patiently, like leaving a porch light on long after nightfall, like keeping a path clear even when you are unsure anyone will return. You have carried that feeling while still choosing yourself. You have continued growing while still holding a small space for possibility, and that does not make you foolish. It makes you human. Lately, though, something feels different. There is an energy around your life that was not there before. A subtle shift, a sense that something beneath the surface is changing. Maybe you have noticed it through unusual dreams. Maybe it appears through repeated numbers. Maybe certain songs seem to find you at precisely the right moment. Maybe thoughts of this person have returned with an intensity that surprises you. You thought you had reached acceptance. You thought you had settled into their absence. Yet suddenly their presence feels closer again. And here is what matters. Do not dismiss every feeling simply because it cannot be measured. Do not assume every intuition is fantasy simply because it lacks immediate proof. Sometimes the soul notices movement before the eyes can see it. Sometimes inner awareness recognizes change before reality fully reveals it. Your logical mind will naturally resist this. It will remind you of the distance. It will point toward past disappointments. It will replay every reason things ended the way they did, and caution has its place. But logic is only one form of intelligence. There are experiences in life that cannot be understood through facts alone. As Carl Jung once observed, when two people truly impact one another, neither remains unchanged. A meaningful connection transforms both individuals, and whether you realize it or not, this person changed something within you. The question now is whether that transformation is leading both of you toward another chapter still waiting to unfold. Here's the rewritten continuation, fully paraphrased while preserving the same emotional depth, message, and flow. And the truth is this: the impact was never one-sided. Just as this connection changed something within you, it changed something within them as well. When two people meet on a level that reaches beyond surface attraction, when the connection touches something deeper, something spiritual, something impossible to explain through ordinary logic, both people are altered. Something shifts permanently. A mark is left behind that time cannot simply erase. Months may pass, years may pass, entire seasons of life may come and go. Yet the transformation remains, Because genuine connection does not vanish simply because two people create distance. It does not disappear because fear entered the room. It does not dissolve because someone chose to walk away before they were ready to face what they felt. Experiences that change the soul continue working beneath the surface long after the visible relationship ends. What happened between you was significant. It was not a passing encounter. It was not a temporary emotional high. It was the kind of experience that rearranges a person's inner world. And connections like that do not simply fade into nothing. While you have spent your time rebuilding yourself, finding stability, rediscovering your worth, and learning how to stand on your own foundation again, something very different has been happening on their side of the story. Their certainty has been slowly unraveling. The confidence they once had in their decision has been challenged repeatedly by reality. From the outside, they may appear perfectly fine. You might see photos, updates, achievements, smiles. You may hear that they are busy with work, spending time with others, dating, traveling, or continuing life as though your absence made little difference. But appearances are rarely reliable when it comes to matters of the heart. The version people show the world often hides an entirely different internal experience. Behind closed doors, away from distractions and expectations, a different process has been unfolding. A process they did not anticipate. A process they cannot control. When they left, they believed distance would provide answers. They convinced themselves that space would bring understanding. They believed that stepping away from the intensity of the connection would help them think clearly and finally understand what they wanted. Perhaps they thought time apart would make their emotions settle. Perhaps they expected the attachment to weaken. Perhaps they believed that enough distance would eventually make everything feel obvious. Instead, the opposite happened. Distance did not create peace. It created absence. And absence has a way of revealing value. At first, the realization was subtle, small moments, unexpected reminders, thoughts that surfaced at inconvenient times. Then gradually those moments became harder to ignore. A memory would appear out of nowhere. A familiar song would trigger emotions they thought had disappeared. Something would remind them of you, and suddenly they would feel your presence as though no time had passed at all. The strange thing about meaningful connections is that they often become most visible when they are no longer available. And that is exactly what began happening. They tried to move forward. They genuinely attempted to replace what was lost. They explored new possibilities. They gave other people opportunities. They searched for distractions, excitement, novelty, and companionship. But every comparison quietly led back to the same place. Something was missing. Not because others lacked value, not because nobody else could ever enter their life, but because what they experienced with you carried a depth that proved difficult to recreate. Conversations felt incomplete. Connections felt surface level. Moments that should have felt meaningful somehow lacked the emotional resonance they once took for granted. Without realizing it, they kept measuring new experiences against the standard created by what they shared with you. And the comparison rarely favored the present. Over time, that realization became impossible to ignore. Late at night, when the noise of the day disappeared, your memory became harder to escape. The mind becomes honest in silence, and silence has been speaking loudly to them. Your name appears unexpectedly. Old conversations replay themselves. Certain moments return with remarkable clarity. Expressions, words, details they thought they had forgotten. Questions follow shortly after. Do you still think about them? Have you moved on? Do you resent them? Would you even want to hear from them now? Most importantly, have they already waited too long? These questions are no longer occasional visitors. They have become regular companions, a constant presence in the background of their thoughts. Ironically, the person who walked away is now the one struggling to find freedom from the connection. They expected departure to create relief. Instead, it created reflection. The choice they once felt confident about now looks different through the lens of time. What once appeared necessary now feels uncertain. What once felt like an ending increasingly resembles a mistake. There is an ancient truth that speaks of seasons in life, a season to release and a season to seek. For a time, they released what was in front of them. They let go of something they did not fully understand, not because it lacked value, but because fear, confusion, and unresolved wounds clouded their ability to recognize what they had. Now they find themselves in a different season, a season of searching, not searching for someone new, searching for understanding, searching for meaning, searching for a way to reconcile the decision they made with the feelings that refused to disappear. And recently, something significant shifted inside them. Perhaps it happened through a conversation, perhaps through an experience that forced reflection. Perhaps it was simply the accumulation of months of avoidance finally reaching its limit. Whatever the cause, a wall inside them began to crack. The defenses they built started losing strength. The explanations they relied upon no longer felt convincing. And when that wall finally weakened, emotions they had kept buried rose to the surface all at once. The realization was powerful, almost overwhelming, because for the first time they stopped running from the truth. For the first time, they allowed themselves to fully acknowledge what they lost, and with that acknowledgement came clarity. Not perfect clarity, not complete certainty, but enough clarity to recognize that you were never just another chapter. You were one of the most meaningful parts of the story. What is happening now is something many people experience during profound personal growth. They are being forced to confront aspects of themselves they spent years avoiding. Their fears, their emotional defenses, their self-sabotaging patterns, the wounds that taught them to run whenever love became too real, the parts of themselves they preferred not to examine. Carl Jung spoke often about this process. He believed true growth requires people to face the hidden aspects of themselves rather than spending a lifetime escaping them. And that is where this person finds themselves now, standing face to face with truths they once avoided, recognizing behaviors they once justified, seeing patterns they once denied. It is uncomfortable, humbling, at times painful, but it is changing them, and through that process, they are beginning to see you differently, not through the lens of fear, not through the stories they told themselves when leaving felt easier than staying, but clearly, honestly. They are remembering who you truly were, the person who understood them, the person who saw beyond their masks, the person who remained genuine even when they struggled to do the same. Something else is growing within them as well. Courage. Not complete courage yet, not enough to erase every fear overnight, but enough to begin moving them in a new direction. They have imagined reaching out more times than you realize. They have replayed potential conversations repeatedly. They have imagined what they would say if given another chance. They have pictured your reaction, your voice, your expression, your response. Fear still exists. They fear rejection. They fear discovering you have already moved on. They fear learning that the opportunity they once had no longer exists. But for the first time, that fear is no longer the strongest force inside them. Something stronger has begun to emerge. The desire to return, the desire to speak, the desire to bridge a distance that once felt permanent. And now the question is no longer whether this realization is happening. It is. The real question is how it will unfold, how they will find the words, how they will gather the courage, how they will turn understanding into action. Because little by little, the answer is taking shape. And this brings us to the sign that has already appeared in your life. The sign you may have noticed, then quickly dismissed as coincidence. The sign was never meant to arrive in a dramatic way. In fact, you may have overlooked it because it appeared so quietly. It didn't come with certainty or undeniable proof. It entered your awareness gently, making it easy for logic to dismiss. You may have called it coincidence. You may have assumed you were imagining meaning where none existed, yet a deeper part of you felt something different. Because meaningful signs rarely arrive with noise, they emerge through patterns, small moments that seem ordinary until they begin repeating often enough to capture your attention. Perhaps you've noticed recurring numbers, 1111, 222, or dates connected to important memories. At first you brushed them aside, yet they kept appearing at moments when your thoughts drifted toward a certain person or unanswered question. For others, the message arrives through music. A familiar song unexpectedly plays, instantly bringing back memories you thought were long forgotten. It's not the song itself that feels significant, it's the timing. Then there are dreams. Not every night, but often enough to leave an impression. You wake up unable to remember every detail, yet their presence lingers. The emotions remain, carrying a feeling that stays with you long after morning arrives. Sometimes memories return with surprising clarity. A conversation, a laugh, a specific moment suddenly reappears in your mind. You find yourself wondering why this memory surfaced now and why it feels so important. Others experience reminders through people. Someone unexpectedly mentions their name. A conversation somehow circles back to them. Small coincidences appear at precisely the moments you were already thinking about them. Then there are the feelings that are harder to explain, a sudden warmth, an intuition, or a sense of connection that seems to come from nowhere. The value of these experiences is not in proving that someone else is thinking about you. Their true value is that they direct your attention inward. This reflects Carl Jung's idea of synchronicity, the notion that certain events feel connected not because one causes the other, but because they hold personal meaning. The significance lies in the recognition they awaken within you. Perhaps these moments have been inviting you to listen more closely to yourself, to notice what still matters, to understand what remains unresolved. Because the most important question is not whether someone returns. The most important question is who you become while waiting. Waiting has been shaping you. It has been teaching patience, self-respect, and discernment. It has shown you how to remain grounded in your own worth regardless of another person's choices. Many people believe waiting is about reaching an outcome. Often, it is about transformation. You are not the same person who began this journey. You have grown. You have healed. You have discovered strengths that only uncertainty could reveal. And that growth matters more than any single outcome. If someone returns, you will meet them as a stronger version of yourself. If they do not, you still keep everything you gained along the way. That is real power. Real power is not controlling another person's decisions. It is remaining connected to yourself. It is refusing to abandon your worth while searching for answers. So if this person reappears, listen honestly to your heart. If your answer is yes, honor it. If your answer is no, honor that too. Both choices can come from wisdom. Both can come from self-respect, because your value was never dependent on someone else's return. These signs were never meant to make you dependent on another person. They were meant to remind you that your intuition still speaks, your heart still recognizes meaning, and your journey is still unfolding. As Carl Jung suggested, we are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we choose to become. That choice belongs to you. Trust your growth. Trust your journey. Trust yourself. Whatever is truly meant for you will arrive in its proper season, and when it does, you will be ready. And perhaps that is the greatest message of all. Whether this person returns or not, the real transformation has already begun within you. The signs, the memories, and the moments of synchronicity were never meant to take your power away. They were meant to guide you back to yourself. Trust the growth you've experienced, trust the wisdom you've gained, and trust the timing of your life. What is truly meant for you will arrive naturally, without force or fear. Stand firmly in your worth, remain open to love, and remember, your future is not defined by who left, but by who you choose to become.